Hey everyone, this is Monarchy, and today we're at Castleton in the area that arena, I'm guessing. Yeah, so Castleton and arena. So this is an NPC that you could practice in countering two different counters. So you have the stationary counter, and also there's is a mobile counter. So you have to be moving around, and at one point you have to dodge. So pretty much when you see the circle going tighter, you press the dodge button. But also when you're moving around, you're gonna see a diamond getting closer to a certain midpoint, and once you're moving, you dodge. That's the mobile counter. Am I the best at it in this little tight area? No. But on bosses, I'm above average. So I just learned it today on going on co-op dungeons and going on whatever this character's name, but on my other character. So the mechanics of this character slightly different from tier 1 version. And I will show you each in different tiers maybe later on down the line. I'm going to wait till the update because there might be certain changes. I don't know. Don't shoot the messenger. Just, a guess. So let's take a shot and see. You have to be moving, because this one, let's do it again. Damn. So move, but I guess it's in her facility. There we go. Has to. That's how you block. Stationary. And that's how you dodge. There we go. I can. That's how a way that you get the basic one is pretty much that in her area, as you could see, it stops from this part. And that's the stationary. I mean, this is stationary, sorry. There we go. But I want to know if I could just do it like this. There we go. No damage. Those are so easy for me. But, there's times it's hard to predict it. Yeah.
Got to time it right.
Because in
Can you block this too? Don't forget to practice.
in dungeon bosses, it's simpler. But as this character is not moving, it's quite harder. But I like the idea of it that this person is stationary and you're trying to do your thing to step block and also, the basic block. But it's a bit harder to, like, if you're shooting, because it's a lot faster of the tick of, especially with this character, it's faster on the tick. So if you're playing PvP, so let's say, let me get out of that. Let's say if I'm battling with someone, right? In PvP, you have to be precise, and you have to be moving, not stationary as most of the time when you're in dungeons. So in dungeons, you pretty much have to stay in one point and not move as much because you're focusing on either the mobs or the boss. Because if you're going to the boss's domain, right, it's pretty much they're gonna stand still most of the time. So let me rephrase it. This monster is stationary, but it's mostly moving kind of in a circle, clockwise or counterclockwise, but staying in one position. This guy is moving around, kind of an agile mob or a boss. So you have to bob and weave and dodge around. Oops. And this one is pretty much you're walking around it. And the mobs, it's the little ants. So the fire, I think, and lightning, you have to move slightly around, but not as much. You can, but it depending on which class that you're using. And same goes with every of these boss monsters. This one, it's the one that turned into a rat. It's moving around. This one, stationary. He just jumps and do shockwaves. This one, stationary, slash and dash you, but he doesn't, not dash, slashing and, attacking you in different format of ways, but it's pretty much he's moving like just a tad bit, just going on counterclockwise or clockwise. Same difference. It just stays in the center, and whatever mechanic he has, it's very simple mechanic. This one I haven't tried yet. This one either. He's my favorite of all of them. He's my favorite, and then this guy. But then it comes after death, and yeah. But pretty much, he has a fun mechanic. Simple, easy. Just that, he used mobs as well to freeze you and pin you down. And he just go across or side to side, depending who has the aggro. but I haven't touched the dimensional trials as of yet. I have tried it once. I attempted once. It's, complicated and different story. Um, yeah. So, again, even if I activate this character, the basic mechanic of blocking and kind of counter, depending on what class, stationary block, and moving block. So you're moving in a momentum, and regardless if you are able to back away slightly and then come right in for the kill. So like great sword, the greatest thing about great swords, you could be pretty much about here
You've got to time it right.
and have a good jump.
Try
And
to block.
you know,
How about this?
you cannot block that a normal
Try
block.
to block.
This you could do a normal block. If you're moving around,
Can you block this too?
it doesn't
Can you block this too?
read it.
Can you block this too? Don't forget to practice. Practice makes perfect. Try to block.
I could pretty much get perfect block every time.
Time it right.
And this, it's
You've got to time
not a perfect block. That's a perfect
Don't forget
block.
to practice. Try to
Because
block.
I was out of her range.
Don't forget to practice.
See, once you're about here, you're out of her range. She cannot even do her stationary block or moving block. Same goes for bosses. But there are certain bosses. The bosses has a more of a depth of a range than her. Her depth of range is you could let's see, hold on. As you could see her circle, that's her range of close quarter combat. So to counter you, but her broad range of like if you're trying to counter her move, her special move for you won't get stunned, it's about here. If you go slightly past it, you're out of her range, out of her reach, and before she could grab you. Bosses has similar of distance. It's slightly over exaggerated by this much or a little bit more depending on the boss monster you're facing, because each boss monster has their own class and their own range of defense and attack. So, going for an example, his broad range of attack, it's similar because he has tentacles and he's kind of a mage. It would be about here. You want to be out of that tentacle monster's reach about this side. So range classes, mages would be perfect sweet spot here. Or if they want to go, a little bit farther distance, depending what role that you're playing on that dungeon. But like tanks, DPS, walls, whatever that assassins, your range is pretty much close quarter combat and mid range, depending on the skills that you're using. Unfortunately, my character, he's a range, so far range, mid range, and close range. So that involves, like, since this lovely fellow lady, she's has a staff and bow, so she's a type of healer. So her range will be far range, depending on the skills, mid range, and the weakness of that is closer range. But I could beg for differ. Depending on what class she's using, skills she's using for her staff, she could be close quarter, but not too close and personal like I am. She could be pretty much at this range, right about here. Bow, since she has the bow, she could definitely be close quarter if she's specializing on tight combat. Because, like myself, I could be tight combat doing this and getting out of range. But if you see the swipe and the smashing, you pretty much want to stand back for far range players. But, like, since this one, it's kind of like a no-no synchronization between the bow and gravesword. But the thing is how the bow, longbow, and gravesword does work. It's because I could use healing ability. So I'm kind of like a mixed paladin in a way, and an archer, because I have my ranges covered in different scenario. So if I want to mix it with a dual blades, for an example, I can be cheeky, be a little crazy, but still I would lack of mana. In this case, I have 4 types of abilities to help me increase my mana, but it would be slightly less. But also, with the paladin's help, I could become tanky or full on DPS or AoE assault type of player. I think this character will probably move forward in the new skill tree. But, that's big to differ. So, like, my man here, he has a S&S, also great sword. So his specialty would be mid-range. Oops. There we go. Mid-range and close-range combat. So now I could kind of figure out what to do on this. Let's see. Switch. Damn it. Yeah. Just by this. So that guy that was here, he's Saints of Chaos. He is mid-range. Well, I won't hit that character. It's close combat and mid-range. Fuck. So this guy, daggers and wand, he is mid-range, close range. He cannot go far range. There might be certain abilities that he can, work with. But is he technically far range? No. That's his weakness, far range players. So pretty much myself, because I'm a bag of all traits. In her case, if they were fighting, he has weaknesses against her. She will have weaknesses against him. So if, let's say I was using daggers and wand and facing her, if she knows how to coverage her weakness, she will have a point up above average against him. And she would technically will win. But depending on their skill level, he could be triumphant and be the underdog and beat her. But I can digress. He can, let's say, he knows how to cover his weaknesses and use it as a strength. So it would be up point on average above her. If she doesn't know how to counter and defeat that type of person, then she would be down for the count and he would be the victor. Same goes for me. So mine is a broad range of, I could attack from close quarter, mid range, far range. So that's how you have to understand the ranges of each class. So before I keep doing this, but I think I already explained good enough on countering or blocking the two types if you don't know how. So going for skill tree. And we're gonna go on mastering weapons, and if you want to change or mess with, excuse me, grave sword, like I've said, close range professional, I should say, but also mid range. Because of his leap, he can be in the far range, but that's not where he's specialized on far range. So don't get twisted, because you could do the leap of faith and do this.
Don't forget to practice.
The leap of faith doesn't necessarily tell you or say that you can work on certain ranges, excuse me. It just shows that you're probably taking a breather or observing your surroundings or who you're facing. It doesn't mean that because any of these attacks doesn't mean squat of you're a far range. No, you're just an AoE, DPS, and heavy smasher. That's about it. Depending how you use the greatsword, it's how you're gonna implement of if you're gonna be tanky or whatever. So going back, daggers is mid-range and close range. Therefore, the sword dance can technically go to far range, but doesn't mean that you're a pro on far range attacks. You're mid-range, regardless of your abilities. Your abilities is close and personal, and you step back a bit, going to your mid-range area where you feel comfortable with because of this ability that you could technically teleport and use stigma, fatal stigma, and yeah, you're an AoE character if you want to push it in that direction. So let's go to crossbow. Crossbow is mid-range and far range. It's not good enough to be close range. So you need a subclass or main class to take care of your weakness. Because the only way that you go to close and personal is because you're facing bosses and certain type of mobs. But in the PvP scenario, you're shit in close quarter. And I could, play devil's advocate on this and digress. You could be efficient enough to be close quarter, but you don't have as much of protection in order to do close quarter. Because if you could see here, it deals damage equal to base damage. So nothing there. Nimble leap. It's a movement, so you can move and step away. So kind of like an extra counter. But technically, you're going on a certain direction. In which SNS can just chain hook you and you're done. So you need cover that weakness in order and find a synchronization or that works well together. This, it gives you, let's see, base, explosion, so kind of like a piercing damage, but it's it's good, just that it's not a counter. Consume stack and repulsive force. 200% of base damage plus 4 damage. Doesn't say. Okay, it works with leap of faith. Nimble leap, excuse me. This is a, spread shot, we could say, or multiple use. Movement speed. We could say it's another type of movement ability because it does says movement speed, reduce, debuff, blind, weakened. So it can, I guess. I don't want to say no. I don't want to say yes. It's it can maybe. You could tell me otherwise. I'm just scanning and, quick scanning reading to see, because this is like a stack. And, yeah, so there might be certain abilities that, let's say, to stun or to paralyze or to, well, stun and paralyze is kind of the same. Weaken and, put fear or curse or something, poison, whatever it is. Let's see, additional projectiles, okay. Consume, so restore mana. Let's see, consume health, so it drains your health to restore mana. So it's a double-edged sword, because it would be nice of this attack, this ability, you could exchange. It should be called equal exchange, not mana exchange. It should be called an equal exchange or a double edge exchange. That you take something in order to get something. So, like this one, in this case, you're depleting your health to give you more mana. But what if you could do the reverse? You deplete some of your mana to gain health. You know, that would be sick. That it could do both ways. But I see they kind of like missed the point, because that would be, chef kiss for players that play crossbows. What is this? Explosion trap. So this is pretty much like a mine trap that you could just toss bombs. Like the bomb class that I was talking about a while ago. Aiming, crossbow. So I'm guessing this might be high off a one-hand double chance to increase the number arrows up to 24. So I'm guessing this is gonna be the what's it called, Beyblade attack. Just by skimming a little bit. Casting. Yeah, you don't really have that much dodge or block ability. It's pretty much, I'm guessing, for crossbow, you're just, moving around. You have to be agile and move around in order to use certain abilities. Because, see, that ability is to increase mana depending how much percentage she's invested in. Let's see. Before I go to wand, I want to check staff. I'm guessing it's this one. Inner Peace. Mana regen 400%. So mana regen and mana cost effect by 56%. So in a, so to speak, you could probably get it by half of your mana up, or
don't forget to practice.
Close to, I guess, more than half, depending on how much HP you have. But I'm guessing the staff user will have a little bit less health, but I can be wrong. So yeah, just by looking at these skills, you're like I said, far range and mid range. That you know how to manipulate and use your elements in a certain way. And I can say, okay, so your freezer, you have to be close to freeze a certain monster, but I don't know if it works on bosses. But I can digress. So spear, pretty much a straight shooter, kind of like the SNS, the ramming thing. It's just a linear path. Okay. So yeah, I could see this like a build-up that, depending how you use it, Stop moving around, crazy NPC. Okay, so going to Juan. Because I have used Juan in the past. So you're pretty much close range and mid range, but mostly mid range because close performance and close range is your downfall, but you can do it. You just need to be really good at it. So it's kind of like Harry Potter. And Harry Potter has a staff, and his staff is, eh, a little piece of thing, a little twig. So you fighting with your powers, it should have far range abilities to use it, like um you know abracadabra or alakazam, whatever they use their spells. Eh, I cannot see myself using the wand far range. I try to, but you're pretty much open. So mid range is best. Only work like that. This the the one is decent and pretty good. Just that the problem is you have so many weaknesses. You don't have
Come to the sundry shop.
good
Everything
defense.
you
Of
need to put up
you
a
could get
fight.
take down quite well, and if you're far away, you're pretty much shit. You're gonna get demolished. So in the middle, if you have someone here by your side, or something like this around you, you are decent. You'll be okay. And then there's times that you could bob and weave, dodge using that type of method and style. But sadly, one is in one of the rough positions because since I understand the ranges of each classes, one is on the range. It sucks. The only thing that it's kind of saving, you have to sleep people and curse them out, and put a magical barrier up, healing yourself to prolong the battle, because one is technically a stall class. You have not the magic power boost of the staff, because the staff just pretty much annihilates. If it's one-on-one, the staff technically annihilates one. Easy as 1, 2, 3. But one has support, a lot of support, that the survivability increases instead of being the weakest link, because of the one is the weakest link. It has great support, and to support itself, it's sustaining itself of increasing the survivability. But depending on what's going to be your main or your sub weapon, that's how you're going to get the victor. But one is technically universal. That's why they had to, I'm guessing, not give much of a power advantage. It had to handicap the wand, I'd say. But I hope thankfully, this next update, one is unhandicapped, but it will still be handicapped because you have to be put in groups in PvP. So a single group of 6, one cannot heal another group player. Like if you're in a guild and you have like 30 members, the healer cannot heal 30 members. It could only heal the 6. And there is maybe certain ability like swift healing that you could extend your hand a little bit and heal the other players. But it needs more help. So staff could, depending what you're going as a healer, because if you're going staff and wand, it's going to be a debuff and buff character as well a healing support. But is it the greatest healer? No, because it's specializing of supporting the healer, the main healer, because of the AoE damage that has, the single damage that has, and I can't recall if it has a buff or debuff mechanism here. Putting party members in range towards the user. Okay, I digress. It could only do damage, and well, yeah, because of it's a DPS healer, it's supporting itself of doing XYZ. But if you change it in a certain way, using sleep, cursing, nightmare, whatever, and using the support of the wand, then it would be a debuff so DPS, debuff DPS healing support, because it should be like behind tanks or walls or staying near the actual healer, because so bow and wand has that the synchronization type thing because of flash wave, if it's purifying touch, healing touch, natural blessing, and I can't recall deathly mark could do anything. Critical increase critical hits. So yeah, it will have like a certain buff and amplifying certain things, but the main job is knock people out, destroy them with magic, adding extra armor, healing, sleeping, go away. It cannot do that much damage. Well, it can do some damage because you cannot disinclude the bow. Yeah, I'd say it's a good spot like this, but also you need to play around with it and have two different type of healers. But like I said, one, it's a handicap, and that there's not enough support for the one that can be the best universal remote. For an example, a best universal remote, you could plug yourself in different areas without restrictions. But it has restrictions, so it has to be a certain name remote for in order to function. So let's say Sony TV for an example, and it's not compatible with any other remote, even if it's a universal remote. It has to be the same brand, but it could be a different remote. If you could get the gist. That's how the one is. Sorry that I had to, talk a little bit more on the one because, it's more of a conversation piece because of the lackluster and how they handicapped the one and how they crippled it in a certain way. So, SNS, it has its strength and weaknesses. When its strength is freaking tanky as hell. But can it hit and knock? Pretty much, can it hit? Hitting sucks because you're using the shield most of the time. Because you're using the shield all the time. The only thing that you're using the blade is this. And mostly you're ramming, smashing, bumping into things, and putting a shield. You're pretty much a brick wall. But brick walls has their limits, has their certain strengths and weaknesses. You have to understand your class really well in order to get out of that weakness or, whatever. It can sustain itself by using this healing factor. So, in a way, it could kind of heal, and if I'm not mistaken, it could maybe increase a little bit of mana. I don't know if it's this one. But regardless, your mana depletion, it's one point is there, gone. A blink of an eye. Because you're using so much mana, because you're a tank, you have to be doing what you need to do in order to succeed and prevail. Once that mana is gone, you're pretty much is a empty trash can. Easy to get kicked. If you are able to sustain the aluminum trash can, you'll be hard to be able to pick up and I'm just saying as trash can as a metaphor. I'm not saying as NSS is trash. No. I'm just using it as a metaphor because, a metal trash can, right? You put whatever crap inside and to put it to one point to another, it's heavy. Or if you're filling it with water, it's pretty darn heavy. But once all the water is gone inside the trash can, it's going to be like an empty bucket. You just move it around, it's going to fly off. That's what happens. Because you could just dump the water out as fast as you can. That's what happens with SNS. Because you're using all these abilities that sucks a lot of mana. And look how the bow has the same issue, okay? And I'm not gonna, bash on SNS. No, I'm just seeing it and saying it how I see it. You're using a lot of freaking mana, and your mana is gonna be gone out the window, and you're pretty much all out of arrows. So you have to wait for your cooldown to recharge mana. It's gonna be pain in the ass to fully charge. So you need something to sustain your mana. Same for this one, for that one. There is, nothing to sugarcoat about it. Because since we already have long mode there, I already talked about it with wand, staff, spear. Okay. Spear is good. Has a little bit of a hog of mana. But it's a powerhouse. Is it the best? To each their own. It has a wide range of coverage. I'd say that because it says reduce and apply weaken burst. In theory, let's see. In theory, this is kind of like if you're taking an energy drink. Okay? You take an energy drink or drink some coffee, you're hyped with caffeine. This is your character. You're hyped on caffeine and you're ready to go and boom, 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 boom. Once your mana depletes, if you don't figure out how to sustain your mana, you're pretty much a broken twig that could easily be broken. You just need a stall enough to deplete the mana. If they're using consuming I'm probably just gonna leave it in. Oh shit. People gonna talk shit about that one. Regardless, you're consuming an item to sustain yourself for you won't be depleted of mana. If you do that, you'll be okay. You'll be fine. But if other players are doing that too, it's who's gonna outlast the depleting of the consuming item. Because I believe the item might have a cooldown. It may not. But yeah. Is this an OP class? Not necessarily. But is it good? Yes, really damn good. Because you're like a freaking child in a candy shop eating a bunch of candy. As much as you have something to refill it, you're pretty much invincible. You destroy and wreck house. But once your supplies are done, and if you don't have the proper techniques or skills, you're pretty much a no-brainer that I could just flick a fly out of my, arm, and it's gonna go bzzz, crash, burn. That's pretty much what this is. If you can, like, each and every class, and not just, picking on the meta class, because it is meta, because it's like a freaking kid in a candy shop. That's why it's meta. Other than that, all the class has great things. Their weaknesses and their strengths. So depending who you put in par with, it would benefit you or your teammates. But here's another thing. Depending on your style of play, your play style will be pretty much the number one thing on your list, what you feel comfortable on using. But if you get out of your comfort zone, all these gonna be piece of cake for you, depending on how skillful you use, X, Y, and Z. But like myself, I'm a bag of all tricks. All these are fine for me. I could figure out in less than a day or two. And sometime, or maybe, in a week, I can be, in 2 days, I'm decent. In a week, I'm good. If I learn it more, in a month, I'll be great. In a year, I'll be the best. But have uh, that type of perspective of seeing it in a different point of view. But I like to mess with shit, regardless if they're not, leveled up or not. I mess with a lot of things. So that is it. That is how I see and interpret certain things. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.